To speak to them.
Professor Zondi, we are waiting for Professor Zondi to see if he's here. I think we should just can this session. We'll see it again next week.
I have a second option.
What's the second option?
You need to give me 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the second option is to play you videos of people wishing you happy birthday.
Where are they? Where is the video?
They're in my laptop.
But how are you going to get it on here?
I'm going to put my laptop here.
And then?
And then I can join you here.
But then the video won't play there.
It'll be at the bottom half. Remember?
Oh, okay.
Is that the plan?
Yeah, but it won't play from your computer. It has to play from you'll be here only from your device.
Yeah.
Portable device. That's
and I'll
fine.
be recording.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Oh, I'll use Mimi's phone or something.
Right. Okay, so today I think this technology doesn't want me to work. It probably wants me to relax and enjoy my birthday. So we'll play the birthday video rather, because it's not cooperating. I can't get Professor Zondi online. The network is playing up big time. So now I'm on Facebook, on Twitter, on Facebook here, and on Instagram. It's very, yeah. So we'll do what we can. We'll try to enjoy. I can see Professor Zondi is there on Instagram. I can see him, but we can't get him on board to join me here. Let me try again. I'm gonna try again. We'll see if it works. It's let's see here. I can see you, Sipamandla. I can see you now. Yes.
Finally. I can see you too. I don't know.
Wow.
From technology.
Let's go on up. Now we're now only on 2 platforms. That's great. Facebook and Insta. Twitter us to join us here. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, we were getting very excited about what you were saying. You were talking about 2 strategies. You said the first one could be to rebel. The second one is to subvert. And you were still explaining ways of subverting.
Mm-hmm.
Subversion, yes. Yeah. Do you want to continue?
Yes. The point we're making is this, that a lot of value can be derived from maintaining a relationship with a problematic supervisor without losing the agenda you are trying to push. Strategically, you should be able to maintain a relationship with a supervisor you don't like, because you need them. It's very important. Humility, important for humility, but without subverting your own agenda. So you accept their direction, but you're smartly in your thought. So there are 2 ways in which people do it. One is that you take the thought that has been handed on to you. They say, use this theory. You take this theory, but you do a lot more critical engagement with that theory than merely reciting it approvingly. So you take the theory disapproving, because it's normal in politics, in the politics of research and analysis, that you take a theory not because you believe in it, but you take a theory because it helps you to do criticism of the system. The second way in which people do subversion is to bring that theory into conversation with other theories.
Yes.
Because you are required, they always say, show that you know other theories. What you could do, you've been asked to impose, theory B has been imposed on you. What you do, you take theory A, C, D, E that are closer to you. You elevate them in your conversation with them, and then take the theory that has been imposed on you and put it into conversation with other theories. it will undermine itself. It won't be you undermining it. It will be undermined by the other theory. In other words, if you've been given a pig you do not want, you take that pig and put it among stronger pigs. They will eat it alive. Not you. You didn't kill it. It was killed by the other pig. So thoughts are advanced by other thoughts. And then the third one is look for people who've written critically about that particular thing and use them strategically. Then you are shielding yourself from being seen to be anti-this or anti-that. No, you are simply providing what you call a theoretical literature review on a theory. Then you are using other people to do the bidding for you, but you are a typical neutral, objective scholar. And the last one is this, is where you take that theory and use and bring it into the study, but use your paradigm a lot stronger than your theory. People know that there are two things you use in a study. One is conceptually, it's a theory. And a lot of people use theories and fail there, and they put it in chapter 2. They actually never integrate them into analysis everywhere. It's normal. So you can do the same thing. The theory that has been imposed on you, you make it chapter 2. So it's inside, but it's immaterial to the analysis. During the analysis, you bring in your own paradigm a lot stronger and give just token acknowledgement to the theory, but use your paradigm a lot more to analyze it. And the last one is this, is that you bring the theory, but you let the data speak louder than the theory. So you draw a lot more from the direct data than you do from the theory. So what has happened is you've been able to do exactly what you wanted to do without losing the relationship with that the supervisor or without antagonizing the monster who is able to destroy it. So you keep them happy because they are not intelligent enough. You keep them happy, and then you do the subversion through those 6 strategies to talk about.
Wow, that's cool. And you also explained the downsides of rebellion, because someone said, "Are you saying we shouldn't rebel?" But you are saying you can rebel, but be aware of what the downsides are. So there are circumstances where rebellion can be possible. Under what circumstances would rebellion be the best strategy to go for?
Yes, we use the word rebellion to mean confrontational rebellion, but there is subversional rebellion. It's still rebellion.
Okay, rebellion.
Now, if I come to you, Betty, and then you say, Zondi, I think you must drive a BMW, and then I take your idea. I said yes, and I take a Toyota and put BMW signs on it. It looks like I have obeyed, but I have obeyed you in a manner that strategically advances my interest. Yes. So you can't say I refuse to take a BMW. I did, but I presented it in my own way.
Yeah, I get you. Now,
it's a form of rebellion.
Yes.
You don't have to confront all the time. Yes. Generally in life, there should never be unidimensional, so that people predict us how we're going to do. Yes. Sometimes you push a little bit, sometimes you draw back a little bit, so that they never know how you're going to respond all the time. Yes. To be predictable is to be weak in a contest.
Yes. Great. Now, the second question, Sipamanda, that Anonymous asked was about Africanization and Afrocentrism. And they say, can it act as a response to colonialism and assist with decolonizing higher education? Is it the way to go, or is it problematic? Can you assist with that?
It depends on what we mean by Africanization. In decolonizing, thinking about decolonizing thought, when we talk about Africanization, we simply say, let the Africans speak from where they are.
Yeah.
Because you know what happens literally today? You could be studying educational technology, and all your thought is based on the theories from 5 countries. What means is this, that you might actually be based in the Northern Cape, but you are thinking from 5 European countries, because though physically you are in the Northern Cape, but epistemically, the people who give you concept, the ideas, the questions with you are in Europe, which means you think about Northern Cape via Europe and come back. Because the concepts we use, if we're going to say the question of technology in the Northern Cape is a question of class, by so doing, we have located what you are doing in Marxism. And Marxism is in Germany. Which means though you are in Northern Cape, you have epistemically traveled to Europe to borrow a concept instead of just simply looking at the place there in the Northern Cape and simply understanding it. So when we say Africanizing, we're saying give people a confidence, a right, and to simply study things from where they are and not feel the obligation to use the big European concepts and theories in order to do that. It simply means let people be at peace about having their location, physical location, being the same as their epistemic location. So that the body is not here, the mind is in Europe. The body must be here, and the mind must be here. Let them be allowed to do that. And therefore, Africanization is not about displacement of anything else, but it is about redeeming that which was displaced. It is not to displace Africans, but it is to restore Africa as a fair area of analysis, a fair source of philosophy, a fair source of perspective, a fair source of methodology in whatever you analyze, so that we are able to analyze African issues on their own right, not on the basis of how they can be viewed through a lens in Britain. That is what it means, Africanization. And therefore, Africanization is an absolutely important part of decolonization, because Ngugi wa Thiong'o explained it this way. He says, at our encounter with the colonial, there was a dismemberment. And a dismemberment is this thing which says, Sipamanda Zondi analyzes the issues of water in the south of Tshwane using theories from the US, which means his mind is in the other side of town. And that is dismemberment. And then he says, our decolonizing is to remember that which was dismembered. And therefore, Africanization is about remember where it is necessary to understand things in their own right. Because perhaps the reason why we have not been able to do research that is meaningful in areas where we are and makes meaningful impact has been the fact that we are borrowing our concepts and our ideas. And an African saying says, borrowed waters won't quench your thirst. It can fill your stomach, but it won't quench your thirst. It can fill you up to the throat, but it won't quench your thirst.
Cool. So, Sipamanda, perhaps we should move on to decolonizing pedagogy. I mean, our time messed us up today. So, can you talk about how decolonization then works in teaching? I mean, some people think it's decolonization, it's about what you teach, but you are saying it's also about how you teach and probably why you
teach.
Yes.
Sure. Yes. There are three things. One is what you teach.
Yeah.
What you teach. What is the content of what I teach? What it means is that I go back into my study guide and I look at what I have selected and what I have not selected.
Yes.
A lot of people do look at what they've included, but seldom ever think about what have I excluded.
Yes.
Even if I did it unwittingly, I did it without noticing. But I am always in the process of selecting, always including and excluding. Some of that including and excluding is problematic.
Yes.
So I must be conscious of that. What does that mean? In order. Thirdly, whatever I have included it on what terms? Because there's a tendency of people when they say they're reforming the curriculum where they add African thought at the end. So they do all the orthodox thing in economics and all that. And then the last theme, last study unit of the curriculum would be, what is the African perspective on this? Then I ask myself, if the African perspective is number 12, what perspective is number 1 to number 11?
Yes.
If African perspective is going to be fitted as a item, the rest is whose perspective?
Yes.
So they need to ask themselves those kind of questions. All that. We do that all the time. We do simply addition of African thought to colonial thought.
Yes.
And that is it. So we don't kind of reform that. And thirdly, what we need to also think about is to think about what do we mean by teaching. Because there is a teaching which assumes that the other doesn't know.
Yes.
There's a teaching we've learned throughout the system that teaches us that we are transferring knowledge to others. But if we decolonize that idea of teaching, we recognize that I'm going to be encountering a knowledge holder, and I'm also a knowledge holder.
Yes.
But I must investigate whose knowledge am I holding, and understand whose knowledge they are holding. So that we can have a conversation, which is what is called teaching and learning, a conversation that leads to us both learning. How do I have an experience with students where I am learning and they are also learning? Not just the basics of what they are learning, the actual facts and data, but also how life operates. Because everything we teach is teaching people also how to live life, how to succeed, how to be of impact, how to be useful. Everything we do has implications for the logic of life. Lastly, it is also about thinking carefully about how then I use my power to affirm or disaffirm knowledge. Because though we have a conversation and I have this, in the end, I hold the power with that red pen to decide who has known and who has not known.
Yeah.
I must know the implications of giving a student 30 because I assume 100.
Yes.
But I never explain to a student what was 100 from which they lost a 70. Because you know why, Prof. Katie? When I mark students, I let them accumulate marks from 1 to 30 to 50 and all that. Instead of giving them 100 and then say they missed this, so I minus a 2. They missed this, I minus a 5. And they missed this, I minus a. So I account for what I minus because it's difficult for me to account for what I just accumulate. I simply give a student a 55, but I don't know why I did not give them a 65.
Yes.
It's arbitrary numbering.
Yes.
So I need to think very carefully. I've always found it better for me to assume that when I'm coming to interaction with Hetty is perfect. And then I will minus things and, oh, the English is broken. Oh, if that matters anyway. This thought, she gave me 5 instead of 6. I minus the 2 for losing a 6. I must account for the 100 by giving them 100 and minusing from it and justify every number I minus from 100. Then you will find it very difficult to give a student a 30 because it's the burden to prove why you give a particular number rests with me.
Yeah. Right
now, I give a student a 55 and then I give them 2 comments. But I can't really say that the 2 comments I mentioned equate to 45 marks that they lost.
Yes, yes. And also, why did the other one get a 58 and this one got a 55? What's the difference?
Yes. What's the science behind it? Because if we are scientists, perfectly, we must be scientific about every decision we make, including the mark we give. I'm able to account today, all the time, when I'm out. I can tell you how a student got an 80, because I can account for the 20 they lost.
Yeah.
Rather than making it a mystery where you say to a student, just accept what it is, be grateful for what you've got. Why should I be grateful for a thing that says to me, after the whole year of our interaction, I only knew half?
You can't be grateful.
Shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's unjust, it's unfair.
Yeah. But there's also other things about pedagogy. So you talked about the what you teach and also how you account for what the students achieves there. How you teach.
Yes.
Is there a way of decolonizing that?
And also how you teach. It's an important one. And whether you teach at all.
Yeah, oh yes.
At all. Because there might be co-teaching happening there. Yes. In real sense, great teachers know that they are actually called teachers. It's just a misnomer. It's just a word we inherited. They are facilitating learning. They are facilitators of learning. True teaching is when you facilitate learning, not because that means it places you in a position to challenge the students to keep creating knowledge, challenge their own creative juices, and bring to you what they think about it, so that you come out of a classroom experience having been surprised by a student. I always told my colleagues when I was an HOD that if you go through a class and the student did not surprise you, don't think the problem is the student. The problem is your methods of teaching.
Yeah, yeah.
If the student did not surprise you, then it's your method of teaching. It means you don't know that your duty is not to talk. Your duty is to instigate them.
Yes.
Is to point them, is to get them, is to challenge them. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
How you teach, therefore, is all of it. But the problem with us is this. Many of us who teach in university are teaching without qualification in teaching.
Yes.
Teaching is a science. Education is a science of its own. Yeah. But you have people who passed psychology but never passed teaching. Yes. But they are teaching. They pass psychology, which means they must be doing psychological counseling. But they are teaching, which is what they are never trained to do. Yes. Some universities then have refresher courses, a 6-month course, continuous refreshing. For example, a university in Canada, which trains the staff almost every 6 months in the art of teaching, because there's no question that they now know mathematics, they know biology, they know sociology, they know this, but whether they know how to instigate the other to show that they can learn, it's another science.
Yeah.
So we have to decolonize that too.
But I mean, it's interesting what we mean by decolonizing teaching, because different cultures teach differently. So this transmission way of teaching is not acultural. It comes from a particular culture. But things evolve. Young people of today need to be engaged differently. So it seems to me, I mean, and I'm asking this because oftentimes when we talk about decolonization, people think it's like, yes, last week you said it's about removing that which is colonial. So one can ask, in the way the mainstream of teaching today, what's colonial about that?
Yeah.
Is this mission that's colonial? Is it subservient that the student is lesser than, listens to the master, takes it without critique, and then gives it back at the end of the month or at the end of the month?
Property. You and I come from black communities and black villages. Do you remember how our grandmothers taught us?
Yeah.
There were two common strategies. One strategy was storytelling.
Yes.
To come and tell a story and never interpret it for me. She tells me a story of Selane Lizine. Selane, a beautiful girl who is threatened by this monster man.
Yes.
But she left it to me to interpret what it means in relation to my various aspects of life. She simply told a story, and she told it with a bit of drama, and told it with a bit of music. So music was not in the music discipline. And drama was not in the drama discipline. And literature was not in the literature discipline. And politics was not in the and economics. All of them were in one story.
They were all,
and will do
absolutely.
all the story aside with others listening. And everybody contributing and making a shout. Oh, Selane, may she run away quickly. So they contribute to the story, they add to her story. And
yes.
use of certain myths even. It says, if you wee by the road, you will get tumbers all over your body. It was a way to teach us discipline and hygiene. But they use allegory, they use metaphors in order to teach. All of those methods of teaching are outside the choices that are prescribed right now. So you are right. The ways of teaching we have become accustomed to belong to one culture. What if we look at the Arab culture and look at how they taught, and we look at the Caribbean culture and fuse all of those and see what is most appropriate to get students to understand better the material they need to understand.
Wow, that's very profound. Yes, it's another way of disrupting the Western way of teaching. Let me take you back. I mean, I'm not sure. Something else you want to add to decolonizing pedagogy, because there's something that I want to get to in terms of research, publishing, and whatever. But I want
the last one I wanted to do from primary school all the way to university. One of the most damaging strategies, colonial strategies of teaching, is the idea of a textbook. Very few textbooks are written where we are. Many textbooks are written by 5 major publishers in the world. And they define for what is included and what is not included. We say to ourselves, it is convenient to use a textbook because our people are poor, they can't do this. So we use convenience to avoid doing justice. Avoid asking students to talk to their parents, go to a village, go talk to people, and mix a bit of knowledge. I say, no, it's easier for me to give them a textbook, photocopy a textbook for them, and they bring that, and I say they have passed and went forward. So the textbook is one of the most damaging ways because it is used with a letter D. D, it's not A, it's a D textbook. It is the text on which we base whatever we do. Whereas students can read a newspaper, students are able to download something via internet. Some students can talk to someone and mix it with the textbook and other things to do that. But we have to displace the textbook because it doesn't really actually work in the end. It teaches students to regurgitate facts. It teaches students to only know from one perspective of life. It does not lead us to a democratic way of dealing with knowledge. So using a textbook as a pedagogical tool is part of a colonial strategy we have to disabuse. We now know, now we've been locked down, there was no access to a library, yet students are learning. Some students are actually excelling now.
True.
We can.
But some libraries will say they're excelling because we give them access to our libraries' e-resources.
That's what we're saying to ourselves.
There's lots of politics about students are doing well. I think the lockdown has taught us a lot because it's not only the absence of the textbook. I mean, I find my view is that the teachers, the lecturers, engage differently now that the students are not there in front of them. They are being forced to engage differently. So in a way, they're almost being forced, some of them, to decolonize, to even not pose as the expert, to be kinder, to be open-minded, to listen, to see where the student is, to, I mean, we've got lots of reports from students, feedback from students who say, wow, you are so much kinder in the lockdown. It seems like you understand. You seem to understand my context. And that makes me feel much more relaxed, much safer to ask the questions, to extend myself, and so on and so forth. So it's an interesting thing. So I think it's not just the absence of the textbook, it's the other. So it has disrupted pedagogy, Western pedagogy, or pedagogy as we know it. To think outside what we know as pedagogy and outside the lines,
Yes,
no, and it's working for students. It's working for students.
yes. The classroom is lines, and the
Yes,
classroom is a box, and
yes.
the teacher in front and student is in front of the teacher is a box. So we learned to think outside the box. You know, I taught a class of about 160 third-year students in politics during the lockdown.
Yeah.
I'll show you. After 3 years doing the same thing, the numbers of students attending, just attendance, were much higher. I would get up to about 160 students when it was very hard to pull half the students into a physical class.
Wow. Wow.
Also, I can have hundreds, half of them are playing with their phones and stuff like that. I'm boring in the old order of things. But they were much more engaged this time. Thirdly, the classroom participation in my class had moved up significantly to the point, you know, I talk a lot, to the point where I competed with students for a voice in class. I didn't have to wait and beg, please, can somebody say something on it? I put up one slide with two bullet points. I trigger a thought. Then I look up in the platform. I see 36 hands are up. Now each of these one must talk to this first slide. I was very happy that I was not able to finish my slide. You know what thought came to my mind, Betty? Is that the fact that I was not able to finish my slide was a victory for decolonial teaching and learning. Because finishing my slide would have meant I'd become central to the teaching and learning. Not finishing my slide meant I needed to compete for space. My thoughts needed to compete with those of the students so that I don't just dominate the class. I was happy that though I was preparing 7 slides, I would not finish my slide. It was victory to students who were able to do that. And lastly, I also noticed that the students do not fear me online.
Yes.
They fear me physically because I can put their face to the name and penalize them. But here, they turn the video off and they speak boldly. I also noticed that the black students who are always cowed by broken English they had no care how broken their English was online. They spoke. They simply spoke. There was no sense of implication for them being less colonial than others. I found that remarkably beautiful.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's exactly, I mean, that's the disruption we needed, though. That's the disruption we needed to our classrooms.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And because the students actually...
It's working for both you and the students.
For all of us. For all of us. It did.
Yeah.
And the consultations that I would get also. You know, you normally get a few bold students to consult. Usually black students, the ones who are struggling, are so scared to consult because they think their English will be laughed at during a consultation. But the numbers of students that will consult, I remember one day I had put them to say, after class, I'll keep my blackboard open for 1.5 hours for consultation. And I would use up the entire 1.5 hours, giving each student 7 minutes for consultation. Because there were so many wanting to consult. And in the consultation, I was seriously amazed that the students were not coming to beg me for this or ask me for this. They were coming to say, this is what I think. What do you think? This is what I think. What do you think? I didn't enter that debate because I think now on second thought, I'm thinking you are wrong on this. I think, what about this end? They would teach me, I'll sit down, I'll be taking notes because they're giving me thoughts I never get when we meet physically. Indeed, this lockdown has shown us that what we feared was actually the future.
Yes, yes.
Learning.
I think the lockdown has been an important disruption to higher education, teaching and learning.
Yes.
Can I end on this point about publishing? Oftentimes, when people from the continent or from the global south submit papers for publication, you'll find that sometimes they get a comment that says, this is too localized. We can't publish it. And you hear these things when you're on an editorial board and you try to shake the space in the editorial board. Why are we not publishing enough of the people from the Caribbean, from Africa? Why is it these voices, Western voices, we've got to change? And you look at the comments of reviewers, you'll see a running, I mean, over the years I've seen this is too localized, or this is not international enough. And I've always said, but what do you mean? What counts as international? What counts as local? And the debate gets to this point where it's almost like if a paper yeah, we are getting cut again. I think they want to stop us now. Your network wants to pause us like it did earlier. But anyway, we had a longish conversation. I think I'm gonna pause it here then, Sipamandla. It's stopping us. I can see you blurred. But I'm gonna end with this question. I'll either continue with Professor Sipamandla Zondi one day or with another person that I'll speak with. This idea that what you're doing is not international enough or is too local, and it's mainly because the space is so Western that if someone writes from the American or the US experience, it's not seen as local. It's almost like if it's from the US, even though it's data from there, only it is seen as international. And I think that's part of the colonial. So we've got to think about how do we disrupt that space, that our work or our data or what research that's done from the side, it's not seen as localized, particularly whether it's social science research, education research data, and so on. That what is seen as local is not just what is in the global south, and we redefine what international means and what local means, because my view is that what is local is also global. I'm gonna pause here. It is now 17:22. We had a rough time today with the network. I understand that it was raining very hard in Gauteng yesterday, but let's catch up again tomorrow. Let me go and finish my birthday celebrations, and you have a good evening. Thank you very much for your patience today, and for joining us in this session. I hope you learned as much as I did. All the best for the week. Bye-bye.